64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line. We already had Johnny Athletic on the show. We are guest-free for now. After we get wrapped up here with Nacho, who's going to be calling us in just a couple of minutes. Vikings' first preseason game, of course, is in the books. I don't think anybody played. Were there any games yesterday? I think everybody played earlier in the week, like Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
Yeah, I don't remember any yesterday. I'll look here quickly.
Which is interesting, because I thought, now maybe it's the second week where they start moving around all kinds of national broadcasts, and because usually they milk preseason football, right, for everything.
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. A lot of good texts coming in regarding Luigi Mangione and that poll about youngsters. I'll try to save those for a little bit later in the broadcast, because there's a couple of really, really good ones, I think, that might well nail part of the, maybe even solve, one could say, part of the mystery. Keep the talkbacks coming as well, with a chance to win tickets to see Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis at the Great Minnesota Get-Together Grandstand. They are performing on that first Saturday night, which I believe is August 29th. And part of the deal, if you are chosen, is a pair of tickets to get into the State Fair itself, right? Combination. We're not going to make you, because if, like, Glenn Mason would complain about something like that. Oh, you got me concert tickets, but you're still making me pay to get in.
Right.
Right?
Right. And even with this, Mace would say, well, how am I getting there? Even with this prize package, he'd say, well, am I supposed to take the bus?
Governor Arnie Carlson wouldn't.
No, he'd get there.
90 years old. But Glenn Mason would. Think about it.
Oh, I have. I definitely have.
Yeah, okay. Real quick before Nacho calls, if there's a prevailing angle to come out of the first game, I think it has more to do with JJ than it does Kyler. And I mentioned yesterday that the Wolves, I think the Vikings' sticky wicket is, if you believe this season is about doing something, not finding out about what you have at the quarterback position, but doing something, then to a certain extent, I don't know how you escape the conclusion that Carson Wentz is a better option as backup quarterback. You don't even have to hate JJ to say,
yeah,
he's more ready. If every game counts this year, then it probably makes more sense for Wentz. Now, part of what I saw, too, was I thought JJ made a couple of decent throws, but I thought he looked off, sped up, weird. I didn't think he looked comfortable at all to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you're looking at this in a real sense, again, just for this season, isn't Wentz a better option as a backup quarterback than J.J. McCarthy?
Probably. Yeah, probably.
I think it's inescapable. And it's depressing in a way, because then where the Vikings are stuck is I don't think they want to give up on J.J. as an investment.
And I don't think they should.
But to a certain extent, they almost are going to have to if they're going to be fair in giving the rest of this team the best chance to win as many games as they could this year, especially if Kyler goes down, right?
Yeah.
Which has been known to happen from time to time.
It has. I even found it interesting. I know what's he supposed to say, but in the Justin Jefferson third quarter mic'd up, when he was talking about Carson Wentz, I don't know if you caught that part.
No, I did not.
Basically just, yeah, dude knows how to run an offense.
Yes.
He knows how to keep us moving. He knows how to keep us humming. And obviously, he's not going to trash his teammate. He didn't mean it as a rip on JJ, but he's revealing something in that answer.
I
thought so. Yes. Just how matter-of-fact he was. Like, this guy can go out there and help us. He can go out there and move us around if he needs to. It felt very easy for him to say that. It didn't feel like it was forced kind of coach speak stuff that you would get from time to time.
How many times, in all honesty, and be honest, how many times did you play back on the All-22 the two big runs on that first drive? I bet you played it back 3 or 4 or 5. I played him back each 5 times.
That's why I was saying, you're bringing this up because you want brothers in arms, because I know you've been watching it all week. I got to get Leber here. Okay, get Leber, and we'll get him in on all this stuff. And a lot of good questions are coming in via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, as they often do, at 64686. Remind me to get to details on a very special in-studio guest tomorrow.
that I am definitely looking forward to, and a number of other things for the rest of the week. It's now starting to look like we won't be going back to camp Wednesday or Thursday because those are the joint scrimmage days, and unfortunately, with the Ravens. And unfortunately, everything's going to be, I think, wrapped up like by 2 o'clock. So there might not be much reason for us to stop by there on either Wednesday or Thursday. I know our next guest will be there. He was at the preseason opener. He'll be at the joint practices as well. Nacho Leber, Ben Leber, joins us. Brought to you by our good friends. Hold on a second. Let me move over here. Got to get this right. I'll tell you what. Why don't you introduce our latest
FVP Battery? FVP Battery. Thank you. And
new sponsor.
New sponsor.
It's outstanding.
And Leber he's got the responsibility again this season of naming his FVP Battery Power Player. The player that demonstrated the most energy and had the most impact on the outcome of the game. Are you prepared to do that, Leber, moving forward for the next 20 weeks?
Are you prepared to do it off of a preseason game, too? Because I assume, are we starting this now, or can we start in the regular season?
Let's start it right now. Let's make him do it.
Well, guys, we're just going to start off real hot, aren't we? I love this. Yeah, I do want to thank FVP Batteries for sponsoring this segment. It is one of my most fun segments that I do all year long. This will hit at Monday around 4:50. It's going to be great. Dan, it's always good to talk to you. Let's see. My player of the game for this week. Now, I don't have to – so it's different this year versus last year. Is I was kind of searching for the unsung hero from last year of like, well, this guy, you probably would not going to see him in the box score and whatever, but I think he did this, that, and the other. This one's going to be a little bit easier because I think it's a little more obvious. For the first one, I'm going to say Miles Price. I think that he really showcased himself as a true wide receiver, and we know what he can do in the return game. But I think as a wide receiver, an actual viable wide receiver, I think he put his name in the books and can be a weapon for us on offense.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, the battle for me, the challenge for me is always how to properly evaluate what we see this early, right? That's the thing. It's what's fair to consider. Maybe it's more important to ask this question in terms of how coaches evaluate, right? It really doesn't matter how I evaluate or how the average Viking fan evaluates. It's how coaches determine we are paying attention to this, we're not paying attention to that because we don't think it's all that meaningful at this time of year. That's what fascinates me is how coaches decide what's in the brew they come up with that helps them make decisions on we're picking this guy instead of that guy to be a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's all that. I don't know if there's like a ton that goes into it that's any different than what you see in practice. It's, we use the word processing for quarterbacks a lot because that's just kind of come up with McCarthy and Kyler and, this whole competition was like, well, how quick are they processing the quarterback position? And I would say the same is true for every player at every position. Are you taking the information that we've given to you and we practiced with the offense, the defense, and the different responsibilities, and then as we don't really game plan for these teams, how are you going out there and reacting to what you're seeing based on your responsibility? It still comes down to alignment and assignment. I mean, they want to see you get lined up play after play after play in the right spot against a different formation than maybe you weren't used to that you see in practice. And then once the ball is snapped, are you understanding what you're seeing? Are you playing within the scheme? Are you playing the right technique? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing how many guys can go out of body when the proverbial lights come on and you see the real bullets happen and all that stuff. Some guys just mentally freak out, and they're a different player than they are in practice. So I don't think you have to dig too deep because a lot of stuff is the superficial stuff that you can see right away.
Let's get to a subject we explored before we get into more observations off of the game itself involving several other players. I want to get to the Jamal Adams story because I mentioned early that this is something you know all too well, but it does hit me every once in a while, the the cruelty of the game. Now, football's not the only game where people get hurt. I understand that too. But you had a guy here again who, seemed to be an intriguing possibility, right? No guarantees on anything about how he was going to be able to reinvent himself here after basically being hurt for the better part of 2.5 years. But you have a story like this, I feel like play out everywhere, pretty much every weekend. And I'm wondering, as a former player, how you come to grips with it. I mean, obviously these are adults. Everybody makes their decision on whether they want to raise their hand and be a football player or not be a football player. But my God, the same injury on the other leg, it's almost uncanny what has taken place here. And to me, again, it was just a reminder, Ben, of just how cruel this game can be.
So let me just get something straight, because I apologize. I must have missed the news this afternoon. Did they officially come out and say what the injury was? Because I missed that.
Yes. The injury, let me get the exact description here to be 100%.
Was it another torn quad?
Yes.
Like he did in his left leg?
Yes. In his
God.
right leg, another torn quad.
That's so rare. I know guys they'll pull hamstrings and they'll have major hamstring injuries, but typically when it comes to those big muscles in your legs, you are more likely to re-injure that compromised muscle versus the other leg having an issue. So, yeah, man, I wish I could kind of explain that, but from an injury standpoint, I mean, it is one of those things that obviously if you're going to play this sport, any professional sport, as long as you do, you're going to run into injuries. They're so mentally debilitating because a lot of times, the surgery, the rehab, the recovery is challenging. It's tough because it's a grind that you're not used to. It is one thing to be out there with your teammates. You're out there at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. and you're kind of going through what everybody calls the grind and all that stuff, but you're doing it together. And there's just such camaraderie with that, even though it does at times suck doing it. When you're injured, you feel isolated, you feel alone. It's a different path than you've ever gone down before. A lot of it's uncomfortable, it's painful. There's life adjustments as well. He's going to, whether or not he has, I'm assuming there's a surgery involved, that's going to change how he gets around day to day. I mean, your whole life changes. And then to be in a position where he's at mentally, given his experience and his age in the NFL, you call into question, am I done? Is everything that I've ever worked for and love about this game, is it over? Not on my terms. Just a lot to try to dissect and comprehend in such a short amount of time. And so, yeah, man, I feel for him. Sounds like he really came in the locker room and really made his presence known. Sounds like he was an instant leader on that team, and guys really bonded with him in a short amount of time. So, I wish him all the best.
Very well said. I knew you could speak to that. That's the mental side of this, and we understand. Again, he hasn't died here, right? He's going to have a life, but it's it takes a human toll. I don't think there's any question that it does. And I was mentioning earlier, Ben, the number of players I've talked to over the years, guys like Brad Johnson going way back, Robert Smith, and they said exactly what you did. That everybody, when you get an injury that has you sidelined for the season, and it's significant, the bit is everybody tries to support you. The players are saying, we're not going to forget you, we're with you, we're all around you. But they said, the truth is they can't be around us all the time because the business has to go on. So the loneliness of that, the isolation, Robert used to talk about that because a couple of his main injuries, the year when Brad got replaced by Randall Cunningham, the same thing, that it's just not the same no matter how hard teams try to keep you in the loop or as part of the bigger group. It can't be done. There's isolation is just something that you sort of have to live with. You're just not viewed the same way.
Yeah, and I would say for Jamal's situation, I think it can be approached a little differently. As long as he's willing to just be put on IR and do all of his rehab there at the facility and stay there, which I think, given his veteran experience, I think he kind of maybe has an option there. He could probably go back home and find a trainer there, and I think the team would still have to pay for that. But the point is, knowing that he's going to be on IR and shelved for the rest of the season, there's not this accelerator of rehab when it comes to just doing 2-a-days, 3-a-days, because some guys will do that. They will virtually live in the training room all day long and do multiple treatments backed up by multiple treatments to try to get back by a certain timeline. I think in this situation, if there is no rush to come back, he can do his one treatment a day. He could really get after it. And then if he wants to, and I'm sure the team would love it, if he could be in the meetings, if he could be out there at practice, if he could be a pseudo coach for that defensive back room, that would be huge. Because as you laid it out, the players' lives go on. They're on their player schedule. Yeah. They have the places that they need to be at. They're not in the training room a lot. And it's a weird feeling on both ends of it, because injured players feel like they're a cancer. And a lot of guys feel like if you're hanging out in the training room, well, you're going to end up in the training room. So you don't want to hang out in the training room. You don't want to be there unless you have to be there. And a lot of injured guys kind of get forgotten about.
I mentioned the horrible story, the injury. You'll remember that Rondell Moore had first time he touched the ball in the preseason last year. And as that tragedy ensued, and I'm not suggesting that another sort of tragedy like that is anything like that. This story now is anything like that. But I do remember something KOC said as that story developed and as we learned what Rondell had done. And my recollection is what KOC said is, what you try to do as an organization is you hope in the perfect world they stay with you, they do their rehab with you, that in the hopes that maybe you can have a greater impact on continuing to buoy their emotions if they're having difficulty dealing with that. But that I think he ended up doing a decent amount of his rehab in Louisville and was doing okay. But it's to that same point that even if they are here, it's still, certainly during the season, it's still not going to be the same just because it can't be.
Yeah, maybe, here in a couple of weeks as Jamal sort of, I think, comes to grip with his this new 2026 season for him and the outlook. Maybe I'm making this up, but I've heard that maybe he's had some coaching aspirations. If that's not true, then maybe this is a moot point. But there are some guys just in a generic sense that, hey, you can use this opportunity to start getting into that world. You can kind of you can pull the curtain back and ask the coaches, can I do a little extra? Can I do some stuff that maybe puts me in that coaching realm? Can I start learning a little bit more? Now that I have the time, can I, as a defensive player, can I go over and hang out with Wes Phillips and say, hey, man, can I see what you guys do as quarterbacks? Can I go to the offensive line room and learn what the offensive line are looking at and how they approach the game? Because if I want to get into this coaching world, then I kind of want to understand all facets of the game. And I know a lot of organizations, a lot of coaches are very excited when that happens. So they love to see and teach football, not only to the players, but also be mentors to anybody that wants to learn how to do it.
All right. Give me the Ben Leber official assessment of what we saw from the quarterbacks Saturday.
Well, clearly, with Kyler, you're kind of just looking at the overall mechanism and the way that everything sort of operated. And I thought that he passed that test. I think the eye test is real. The eye test for me is he had total command of the offense. It ran smoothly. He, of course, missed on the one check down throw, but that's sort of a nothing burger. They'll figure that out. A little miscommunication based on a linebacker that's attacking Aaron Jones from the inside, and I'm sure he was like, I'm going to throw it to the outside because I see color, and he's bearing down on him. So slight miscommunication, but I think overall, the run game was awesome. I thought the offensive line played really, really well. And then when you look at the eye test again, you would think that J.J. McCarthy had a really poor day, and it was a clunky performance. But, and I was saying this on the Power Trip Morning Show this morning, and I'll say it again today, that I don't think he played that bad. You know, I watched back the game, and if that back shoulder throw is caught by Ty Felton, I think statistically you're looking at this thing differently. I think that it feels different. The sack that he took, I think the panic nature of the way he tried to get out of that situation maybe was not ideal. But when you have a linebacker that blitzes up the middle and your running back doesn't provide enough time and gets thrown back into the quarterback's lap when he's at the top of his drop and he's kind of looking downfield, that's not J.J. McCarthy's fault. So the eye test makes it look like he didn't play well, but I think he played better than people think. And then, of course, using that same metric, I thought Carson Wentz played really well. I thought he came in and he owned the offense. Seemed like the offensive guys responded to him. He made a couple big throws. A couple throws, he made them look really easy and effortless, which I think is important. And so he looked pretty good as well.
All right, let me ask you this question regarding the second and third quarterbacks here. Because I think you can think both of these things at once. You can be in the group that does not want to give up on J.J. McCarthy and does not think there's enough in the body of work to give up on him, but still believe that for this upcoming season, on the basis of the Kyler move and what it represents, that the best option for backup quarterback, if Kyler were to get nicked up right now for this season, is Carson Wentz. What do you think?
I think it's a real option. You know, I think the probability is something that you can't ignore. I think a lot of it comes down to team dynamics. Mm-hmm. And McCarthy has talked very openly about how he wants to be here. He likes this organization. The organization is reciprocating on some of that. You know, we still see a future with him, and, you know, they love McCarthy, and they just think that he needs just a touch more time. If all of that is true, then I don't know if he's moved, or I don't know if he's down the depth chart and Carson Wentz is your number 2, but I think there's a real possibility that if the team dynamic feels like there's a little bit of a tug of war going on between which quarterback the players like to be around more, and if that quarterback room, which we heard early in the offseason, was a little dicey and a little salty, if that remains to be the same, then that's just an unhealthy environment to work in for 17 stressful weeks. So it's not a nothing conversation, and I'm sure it's something that Nolan Teasley and the whole team is talking about, the front office is talking about, is what do we do in this situation, especially if Carson continues to go out there in these preseason games and take full ownership of the offense and it operates more smoothly.
The first drive with Kyler obviously featured the running game. What I'm trying to get a handle on is whether the two big runs are indicative of the new outside zone, or whether it was just a good execution, good blocking, running backs finding the right hole. How much, again, the concern is always making too much out of anything in a preseason game. What did you take out of those two big runs? Are they evidence of a different style of blocking with the outside zone, or was it more, a little bit maybe, but it was just those are just two good, well-executed running plays?
No, I think it definitely has something to do with the stylistically how they're going to look in this new sort of scheme. I think that it was really encouraging that all 5 guys, including Bredesen as the fullback, including the tight ends, that they fired off the ball and they got to their angles with the speed and the power that they were supposed to get there. And there didn't look to be any hesitation with where their responsibilities were supposed to go. And I think that's encouraging. Now, whether that's a brand new run scheme or it's a continuation of the run scheme that we had last year, just having those guys play fast is the positive. And so you could have a poorly drawn play, but if guys execute it with speed and precision, and they play with the physical toughness that they played the other day for that first series, you can do a lot with that. And you develop trust by your running backs that, like, okay, these guys are going to move some people for me. I just got to hit my landmark and things are going to open up. And if I find a crease, just a small little crease, especially if you're Aaron Jones, he can pick up some big chunk yards. So, no, I think it really was. And that's why I walked away from the game very encouraged and happy with the way the offensive line played, because I do think this scheme is going to allow them to play faster. And then we actually saw the evidence of them playing faster, and we saw evidence of them playing very physical, especially I thought Donovan Jackson played a fantastic first series. I thought he was ultra physical, again, showed off his athleticism when he was pulling as well. So, yeah, a lot of bright spots.
Lastly, the biggest question from 952 guy, given your style of play, what role would you have in a B-flow designed defense? What would be the Leber role in what's allegedly the most rewarding, fun, creative defense ever created?
Well, I can answer that. They would find a really fast, easy way to get me out of this defense and shipped off to another team. I'm not kidding. I mean, I would love to say, oh, I could model myself after this player or this player, but I mean, the reality is they tried that in San Diego. The whole reason I got shipped up here to Minnesota was they started a new 3-4 scheme under Mr. Wes Phillips' dad, and he wanted a kick-ass outside linebacker, and they found that in Sean Merriman when they drafted a first-round pick out of Maryland, and he was in my spot. And so, listen, if I can't cut it as an outside linebacker in a 3-4, they didn't try me as an inside linebacker at the time either. And they're like, you know what? Maybe you're best in a 4-3 as a weak side linebacker. And I was like, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And it kind of worked out. So, I don't think B-Flow would really find a spot for me.
So nobody even knows this, but PA, as part of the Vikings Entertainment Network, actually had Brian Flores break down some of your tape. It's going to be later on this week, I think, on VPN. Here's a quick snippet of B-Flow talking about Ben Leber.
Oh. Bad football. That's what you call it, Paul.
Wow.
I know. You know how embarrassed I'd be if he actually broke down my film. I don't know right now if I have thick enough skin. My skin's gotten pretty soft and supple these days.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could handle that sort of criticism.
You're a TV guy now. That's what happens.
Self-deprecating to a fault.
You're a
Ben
TV
Leber.
guy. Yeah.
What other player that would be that honest, though? But they'd probably get rid of me. I don't think I would fit the thing.
I mean, I'll even continue my honesty here. I was good at those positions. I wasn't great. I could rush the passer, but I didn't have the moves and the flexibility that Van Ginkel has, and I don't have what Dallas Turner has. Yeah. I mean, I love it. Dan, it's my favorite position. I love playing on the line of scrimmage. I love playing against tight ends. It's primarily what I did in college, and I freaking loved it. I wish my body could be 260 pounds because I would really love to be a hand in the ground defensive end.
Interesting.
But I just didn't have it, So, I think I could probably play in a 3-4, just not B-Flow's 3-4.
That's fair. That works. A brand new sponsor. Very excited for the Leber segments all season long. FVP Battery. We look forward to our visit as soon as next week. Thank you as always.
Yeah, thanks. Love it. Football season's upon us, and I can't wait to talk about the Ravens game.
There you go. Ben Leber, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. We are guest-free the rest of the way. Maybe, 520 Sports Fix. I don't know. I'll talk to Garzi about that if he's got a couple of headlines he wants to get into. Some reaction to the Smirkanish sound we played earlier. Michael Smirkanish, the commentator. And there's a couple of other A-section stories, one local in nature, that is pretty serious stuff that we need to get to address as well. Stay tuned.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero.
Just curious, when will you have Gerby joining you again? We're following the fairly customary or traditional schedule with him, which is we don't need to be around him any more than we need to be around him.
Agree.
Right? I think we, for both sides, getting away as long as we do. It's like with Glenn Mason. I think everybody coexists more easily if we just start talking only when we have to, not necessarily when we want to, right?
Yes. So I would say Friday, September 11th.
That's it.
2 days before the opener against his Packers. He might even be in town.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's true.
He might even be in town for all we know.
That is amazing. Let me get to a couple of texts. I'm saving some for more Vikings discussion, but these go back to the Smirkanish clip we played where he was lamenting the number of apparently young people who immediately after the assassination of United Healthcare guy by Mangione, what was it? About 40% and change basically thought it was acceptable. Assassination, murder, acceptable. And I threw out what's that about? Let me read a couple of them. This is Alan in Afton. He's back. Going back to your discussion for Friday, I think the same people who are okay with the healthcare CEO being assassinated are the same people who support drug user dignity and rights over our rights to live in a safe neighborhood. These are progressive ideas that clash with common sense. John the Olympian from Plymouth. I think he's boiled it down, sadly, pretty well. Any notion of a social contract has completely collapsed.
Yeah.
For these individuals. And we could say, well, maybe there's reasons for that, and we got to address it because they're out there. But I think there's something to that. In that, what generation is that? Is that Z?
How old was he? Or how old? What did we say?
20s.
Yeah, I'll have to look. Yeah, I don't know for sure.
I'm confused on all the generations and what they are labeled. I'm not exactly sure. Let me scroll down. I hope I don't have too many of these. We got a lot of football ones coming in. And I sometimes it gets so, damn it, it gets backed up and then we can't. I don't know if it's a glitch in the system. Like right now, the last text I can get to is from 449. And I didn't star enough of them, so I can't, and there were a bunch that came in attempting to address the that very issue. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try to resettle the thing down and I can get to a couple more of those.
Gen Z is a person in their 20s.
Gen Z, okay. Also, people being financially ruined because of deductibles or out-of-pocket policies or denials while paying high premiums breeds a lot of anger. I've worked in healthcare for years. I've seen all of this. And there's a lot of that. I got a few people who were very critical of the health insurance industry, but several of them said they still had lines that they refused to cross, which is, I sort of think, where we kind of need to be. But I think, I don't know, I think there's a larger issue here. I think there's more, I get the sense, there's more and more young, 20 to 29-year-old Gen Zers, I guess, who are ready to blow everything up. And I don't mean that literally, but I mean it figuratively. They're just ready for, let's just anarchy, dogs and cats living together. Let's just mix everything. Let's just throw TNT into the middle of all of this, a Molotov cocktail into the middle of everything that we do. And it sounds cool, but it also has ramifications. And at the end of it, I don't know that it puts us in any better place, unfortunately, than we were before. Had one more I wanted to try to get to. I'm not justifying or condoning his actions, but look at the cost of health care and the denial of service by nebulous, remote, far off, top of the ivory tower, invisible decider. Then look at what Obamacare did for prices. Then look at what voting for Trump did in 2016, repeal and replace. LOL. When you leave a people powerless and without viable options, the crazy ones tend to gravitate to the non-viable ones. Luigi Mangione was told to eat cake. We have a historical record of what comes next. I don't know. See, to me, that romanticizes this individual too much. And let's be honest about something. Part of the reason he seemed to have a fan club was he was good looking, or is good looking. And if that's even a piece of this, then it's hard for me to want to have a conversation with those individuals. In fact, I can't have much of a conversation with those individuals, that's for sure. All right, let's stay on schedule. I'm going to see if I can get to a couple of the other texts. There's another A-section story locally I want to discuss, and we'll bring it back to some Vikings quarterback commentary conversation and so much more when we return. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barrero.
Fair with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on August 29th. We've got your tickets to be there. Hit the talk back every day this week, including now. Hit the talk back. Let us know you want to go to win a pair of tickets to the show, plus 2 Minnesota State Fair admission tickets. Hit the talk back. It's tickets for talk back or talk back for tickets.
Involved in this local A-section story are troubling, to say the least, regardless of who is implicated. But I think it's fair to say that when one of the individuals implicated is a former county prosecutor, you go, my God. And this story has been, these arrests, I guess you could say, this investigation has been in the works for a while, because I think this particular investigator was removed from working in the Anoka County prosecutor's office, I want to say back in February. Once it was found out that she was under investigation. But now we have charges announced today and filed. There was a press conference this morning on this particular story. And Jeremy Olson, who we've had on the show several times, I think he has the byline on the Star Tribune piece. A number of outlets have been covering this thing, including Fox 9, our station. There's a Lou Ragoose piece to this thing that is worth a minute or two as well. But for those who have not seen or read the story, a former Anoka County prosecutor has been charged with 26 felonies and stands accused of promoting and profiting from a prostitution ring that victimized at least 13 individuals. Andrea Sampson, 35, was arrested Friday, placed in Anoka County Jail. Again, I'm reading from the Olson piece in the Star Tribune, before being transferred to Hennepin County. She worked as an assistant attorney specializing in family and civil law until the Anoka County's office learned in February of a state criminal investigation against her and placed her on leave. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension has been investigating Sampson since 2021 for her role in a sex trafficking operation in Minneapolis, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, St. Louis Park, and other communities. This was according to a court document used to gain a warrant for her arrest. She allegedly secured locations for criminal sexual activity and created business organizations and shell companies through which to funnel money generated by the sex trafficking operation, which gets us to the kicker. Lou Ragoose on the kicker. Trafficking victims in this case were used as fake employees to scam taxpayers in Medicaid reimbursements. Sounds familiar, but the idea that even, it seems like every story ends up having a connection to more fraud, does it not? Leaving aside the seriousness of these allegations involving the sex trafficking. 2 other defendants also in Hennepin County Jail for their alleged roles in the operation. They are accused of recruiting women for the sex trafficking operation, promoting their availability online for prostitution. A 4th individual is accused of owning and operating the Minnesota Erotica Personals website, on which the women were posted and profiting from prostitution. The 36-year-old is not listed as an inmate in Hennepin County. Women in the prostitution ring told state investigators that they had to pay $100 per customer to the defendant's sex trafficking organization. Some said they also had to pay $6 per online posting, while one said she also was working at an autism center operated by two of the defendants in this case. Several of the victims reported to law enforcement the fact that a male wielding a gun showed up at times to help keep the victims in line after management was displeased. And they also had been told that the organization had police working for them and that management was, quote, watching them. Court records stated. Court documents indicate that Sampson and other defendants operate autism and assisted living centers and collect money from those businesses as well. That's obviously part of what Lou Raguse is indeed referring to. How about a nightmare story? How much more of a nightmare story can you get than this on several levels? The human cost that's involved in this kind of operation, and then the fact that it can be apparently, according at least to charges, directly connected to more fraud in the great state of Minnesota.
More shell companies.
I mean, so that the victims in this case who are forced into this operation, the victims are used twice. They're also used to according to the allegations, to line the pockets of the individuals now in jail facing these charges as customers in this other, like as fake employees in getting Medicaid, illegally getting Medicaid reimbursements. That's like that's a new level, isn't it? I mean,
what's the Leo movie where there's like layers upon layers upon layers? I can't remember. It's somebody will remember it. Yeah. Somebody will remember.
Well, we've on all these scandals, starting with Feeding Our Future, we've said, well, how can it get any worse or any more creative? This is it. This is like the next level. We'll have a sex operation that we are going to keep you in line to participate in. We're going to make money off of you that way, and we're going to make money off of you as employees in this other operation that we do. My God. And again, the kicker, one of the individuals accused here was working in the Anoka County's prosecutor office as specializing in family and civil law.
It's an attorney. Seems like she already has a decent job.
Absolutely amazing. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 646-86. Let's mix and match here the rest of this segment. I want to get some reaction to this story, and then also we can return to the maybe reaction to the conversation we had with Ben Leber as well. But we're getting a lot of still leftover Gen Z texts coming in. Dan, I'm guessing, this is Scott from Plymouth, but I believe there's a high correlation with school shootings or assassination attempts with hyper-violent online games. Assassin's Creed, GTA, and others reward players for murder and violence. Bet there is some overlap to the 40% who are desensitized to social violence in the survey. Well, what strikes me, again, about some of the demonstrations I've seen on behalf of Mangione is in the case of a number of young women who have expressed their love for him, basically. I'm old enough to remember I get a little bit of Manson family sniff out of that thing, where you had, it was almost cult-like. And part of it in this case more recently is it does come off sometimes. There are people out there who think this is reflected of or related to very serious issues when it comes to frustration over the way the system works, right? But I got to tell you something. There's a part of this that also comes off as performative. About good-looking guy, and this is just it's kind of cool.
Yeah, fancy name.
This whole thing's kind of cool. Almost like, again, you forget that there's been a cold-blooded murder here, and the ramifications related to that. So I was like, this is kind of fun. Let's get into this. Let's get dressed up, and we'll be Mangionistas. That's what they call themselves.
Right.
And it does feel like it's showbiz, that there's a showbiz aspect to it that, frankly, I'm not even sure that was as much of it with the Manson family. Because I think, sadly, a lot of those individuals kind of believed it. In any case, it's...
I think about Scott Peterson. Remember that from Modesto, California?
Yeah, right.
Murdered his wife and unborn child.
Correct. Yeah,
he had living the dream in prison right now, by all accounts, with women that can't wait.
Sending letters.
Yeah.
The whole bit.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Dan, you may not agree, but the reason for the forgiving mindset on Mangione is the liberal point of view. Things like villainizing corporate America, cash less bail, pardoning sex offenders, and softened crime mindset have created a mindset such as making Luigi a hero. That's from Tony. I don't know that I agree. I do think he's putting together. I think that falls into the classification of he doesn't like any of those things, so he wants to believe it's all related to that. I'm not sure that it necessarily is. Dan, I don't know, Dan. Everyone always thinks young people are the rebellious generation. As a 27-year-old Gen Z myself, I feel like a lot of my peers actually align with some more traditional values like the boomer generation. As weird as that sounds, that's just a feel I get from people my age. But, of course, there are always black sheep in every generation that can skew perception. Well, again, it's any poll can, reveal anything in terms of it's the percentage that surprised me a little bit. That's the part that I think surprised me. When saying that's almost anarchic Generation Z, you don't think there'll be much change. Let's think about the past 40 years and how much really positive change do we have towards healthcare, economy, all that. Not saying that what they think is correct, but something needs to be the catalyst for permanent and lasting change for the better. Agreed the social contract was eroded. Young people, maybe rightfully so, do not believe working hard and doing the right thing is enough. 310 guy again. I think it's not that these people are saying they would do the same. I think they're just saying it's reached a level of anger that it doesn't bother them. And I'll say I understand that, but I don't. I'm not sure people who say that understand the door that opens. That's my concern. Because you can have a lot of angry people with a lot of righteous causes, and you may not think you may think it's a little bit more complicated on a given cause. But you open the door, and you don't always get to close it. That's what I think the people who answer those polls that way don't quite understand. And it's almost as if they do think there's a performative aspect to it. It sounds cool. Yeah, I'm going to say that. I'm going to check that box. Without completely understanding what door you might be opening by going down that particular path. Dan, there's a lot of people that would love to see Trump assassinated, and I hate the guy, but I just cannot go that far. I don't understand that line. That's not a line to cross. People okay with the death penalty are likely for the same reason that they're okay with that killing rationalized as a greater good. I don't know if that's analogous. I'm not sure I necessarily would buy that. I'm not sure those are quite the same thing. In any case, I'll be curious to see. I think there may be in this case involving the Anoka County prosecutor, whether there's more individuals involved. At the press conference today, I think Moriarty was in the presser, and she made it sound like it's still an ongoing investigation regarding, I guess, whatever associated fraud might be involved in this case. And I don't know. It makes me think, I've said this before, we had former Governor Carlson in here not that long ago. I'm not convinced that, and I don't think he's convinced at all, that we're ever going to get to the bottom of all of these conditions that might well have led to this unprecedented amount of fraud. And again, you're always going to have some, right? That's the nature of so many of these programs. But I don't know where you even start. The old, does somebody bring in an independent investigator? Would that even matter at this point? I don't know. It may be even too late for that. But I just shake my head and say, as bad as it is, I think there's good reason to believe that it's much worse, and that when you find, like I said, even in a story like this, a potential connection.
Just like the little ones.
Yeah.
Think about like the death by 1,000 cut ones like this one.
Exactly.
We talk about the huge ones, rightfully so. There's been a lot of those. But if there's been a lot of them that they couldn't stop, you have to imagine there's even more that are even below, further down the radar.
Correct.
That they weren't even thinking to look at. So, yeah, tip of the iceberg for sure, like we talked about at the time, but sure there's a lot more.
There's a couple people pushing back on the violent, like in video games. I don't know what to think. I've always been torn on that one historically.
It's true. You could do with music, video games, all kinds of stuff.
I don't know what to think. I mean, it on one level, it's logical to think the obvious, as the cliche goes, that those games desensitize a lot of people to violence, right? But then I still think, I like to think, and maybe I'm naive, that most people understand the dividing line between a video game and the level of violence.
Real life?
In real life.
Yeah,
I don't know. But maybe, and I don't know what the latest studies indicate on that. Because this would be, I mean, how long have we had violent video games? How far does that go back?
30, 35 probably.
So these are second generation ones, or I don't even know what generation this would be. And obviously the games are much more sophisticated.
They are.
Than back in the Pong days, right?
Yes, very realistic.
So does that desensitize you even more? I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, there's constant discussion about, and stories written on this all the time, about the number of, I think it's more males than females, young males who just, they are completely in isolation. And I don't think that means that they're all capable of killing, but that has contributed to a crisis developing in the culture at large, that it's, online games, whatever, in the basement, the whole bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you happen to see, I retweeted it, the story about, it was a Wall Street Journal story. I haven't read it. I've just seen the headlines. So I'm a little skeptical. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but there was apparently some parents that didn't want their kids to be buried in their phones and on their screens and just go into their room and never leaving. So you know what their solution was?
No.
According to the Wall Street Journal, they built a $2.8 million house with a pool, and now all the friends and parents of the friends want to come over. Now no one escapes to their room. So my response was, it's just that simple. That's just what all the rest of us have. If you're worried about it, if you're a parent like me, worried about screen time and isolation and escaping to the room, build a $2.8 million house with a pool, and that should solve some of your problems, according to the Wall Street Journal.
How much is That's
I got to read the story.
Everybody can relate to that.
Don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
I haven't read the story yet, but I'm going to print it out for my neighborhood and just say, here's what we're doing wrong when we're fighting, trying to fight the good fight against video games and screens and YouTube. Can someone build a $2.8 million house with a pool, and then the neighborhood will live in harmony forever?
That seems oversimplified to me.
Maybe.
And probably not realistic.
Steps. Yeah, but anyway.
Where's the connection here? A lot of the kids are into this socialism craze, correct?
I think so, yeah.
And I'm trying to, because this is my comeback to the folks who say, well, you got to understand there's a lot of frustration regarding health care, and it builds up, and I'm not condoning it, but it builds up. But I'm worried if they think the solution is blowing up the system and going to socialism, or as Bill Maher sometimes said, even socialism that's really more communism, but called something different. Did you see because I'm not interested, kids, in going down this road. A couple Sundays ago, your gal, Megan Romer, national co-chairman of the Democratic Socialists of America, was on with Shannon Bream, Fox News Sunday. Let me just read you the question and answer. Bream, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate? Romer, true. Bream, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them? Romer, yep. Bream, abolish ICE? Romer, absolutely. Bream, abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the United States illegally? Romer, as a long-term plan, yep. Bream, defund the Pentagon? Romer, absolutely. Bream, abolish prisons, at least in large part? Romer, yeah, again, as part of a long-term program, yeah. Bream, government or public ownership of most large corporations? Romer, yeah, absolutely. So I'm not the first to say it, but at some point, we have to believe these groups or this group. She's a big shot in this particular group, the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America. If the kids who are voting the way they voted in that poll think, put that together, their feelings in that with this, I'm going, what are you smoking? I'm out. Sorry, I call me whatever you want. Call me a right-wing zealot on that one. I don't think you really have to be. But there's a part of me that says we got to take this movement, to the degree to which it is a movement, at face value. And maybe even to a certain extent, it's to their credit, they're not running from the positions. These are the answers? At the end of the day, this makes you feel more comfortable, or you feel more satisfied, or you feel like, got a chip chair and a chance with that set of circumstances. What are we doing? Again, to me, it just sort of comes off as performance a little bit. So we'll see where it goes. There's a big debate going on in the Democratic Party about this wing. Because there's some people who say, well, we're the big tent party, and then there's some who've come back and said, not this tent. That, in fact, the more you play around in inviting this part of the tent in, the weaker you're going to be, or potentially the more dangerous your position is going to be, if you are actually going to try to make deals with individuals who think the way this woman apparently thinks, speaking allegedly on behalf of Democratic Socialists of America. So how much this fits into all that, I don't know, but it's definitely worthy of conversation, and I know it's something that concerns an occasional guest in this show, Andy Luger, who classifies himself as an angry centrist. I don't think he said it the last time he was on. He apologized, said, I didn't really think the socialism thing was going anywhere, but I'm wrong. It's gaining root, and it scares him. But maybe, again, if you feel like you've got nothing in the game, or you just like the Molotov cocktail approach, you go, yeah, let's blow it up. Yeah, we don't need prisons. We don't need the presidency. What do we need a Supreme Court for? What? To what end? I have no idea. All right, top of the hour break. Let's come back and talk football. Let's get back into the toy department. We'll get back to some Vikings conversation. And as I said, we're trying to give away a pair of tickets to see Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis at the Great Minnesota Get-Together, State Fair. First Saturday on the 29th of August, and also tickets to get into, not just the concert, but into the State Fair grounds in total. Just all it takes is a good talkback, and you might well be in the mix. You get the talkback via the iHeartRadio app. Click on the microphone, KFAN, and I think you have up to 30 seconds to make whatever point you'd like to make on any of these subjects.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrero on the Fan.
From the 1-800
behind-the-scenes fun, you can't get on the radio alone. Watch at KFAN.com/watch. It's powered by Quantum Fiber Internet.
So, your Vikings win their first preseason game of the year against John Harbaugh's New York Giants.
Bad football, that's what you call it, Paul.
So, what's the context of that statement from JJ?
Basically, how the Vikings looked after the first drive with Kyler Murray when they went down and scored 3 points.
Oh, that's pretty direct.
Everything after.
That's pretty direct.
And that third quarter drive, if you remember, they finally scored a touchdown after like 9 Giants penalties.
Yeah, that's
down by the goal line. And JJ was very funny there. He's like, "Oh, we're getting bailed out. We're getting bailed out. We got to punch it in now." with a couple of pass interference penalties.
I will say in the other JJ's defense, didn't he face a 1st and 25? It's kind of hard to get out of a 1st and 25, even if you're Steve Young or Patrick Mahomes in his prime.
Yep.
You know, anybody?
Tom
Left-hander
Brady.
or right-hander or Tom Brady? Do you see Brady lose his mind regarding the lack of participation in frontline players in the preseason?
I didn't.
I think it was via Insta or something.
Was he talking about his Raiders or just everybody?
He was talking about he was more general about now, claiming that back in the day he often played into the fourth quarter of preseason games.
Well, yeah, he played 50 years ago.
So, well,
until just 10 years ago.
But that doesn't mean he's wrong.
That's true.
I mean, you know, he survived.
Well, I would ask him this: did he ever take a hit in preseason like Jackson Dart?
How about
took?
that?
Oh, that was
he got walloped
big time.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a nice play. That's immediately every coach watching that is going, and that's why we don't want to play these guys.
I thought the unwritten rule was nobody blitzes in preseason.
I think that's changed.
Why is that? Do we know?
Well, our excuse is that's just what we do. We can't play vanilla defense. We don't have vanilla defense, so by definition, we have to blitz. You know what it reminded me of, though? This is how sick I am. It reminded me of the Christian Ponder era, a preseason game. I don't remember who we played. Might have been the Niners. And Ponder, this will shock nobody, did not play well. But then didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
You know, did his quarter or 2 quarters, whatever it was. And the excuse given after was that, well, Niners were blitzing. We weren't prepared. We don't do that in the preseason. They were doing stuff that you usually don't do. I'm thinking, okay, obviously there was much more to it than that, but I just vividly remember being...
You have a better memory than me on that. I believe you.
That because he was so bad, and I always hated the Ponder plan as he got going. I liked the idea of drafting him, but they treated him kind of like JJ, that he had arrived, and then they just throw him in there, and he got to play a quarter, and that was it, and he had the hat on and the whole bit. It's like, well, they cheated. They blitzed way more than you're supposed to. So that wasn't his fault.
I'm trying hard not to play devil's advocate on Kyler, but you tell me if I'm overstating the case. Part of what has bugged me since Saturday is the number of people who have, speaking of commemorative prints, issued a commemorative print on behalf of Kyler Murray that it looked like he knew how to run an offense at the line of scrimmage.
I sure hope so.
And I mean, again, better that than the alternative, but he's been a starter. This is for the 8th year in which he's been a National Football League starter.
It shouldn't be a revelation.
It really shouldn't. And I guess the comeback to that would be, well, look at, we couldn't even take that for granted last year. But my God, man. Yeah, he's got enough experience where that should be second nature at this point. I just want to see a little bit more meat on the bone before I'm ready to say, found him. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going that far, and they're just saying, I'm taking the little bits, and I'll just take out of this what I thought I saw. But the idea that had him in the right run play every time. By the way, I don't even know if we know that. That's what we've been fed. Maybe it's true, but it's just, come on. We got to have a higher standard than to be shocked that a quarterback who has started how many games? Like I said, he got hurt some, but this is his 8th season.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise. He's a veteran.
That should be the minimum. That's his advantage. One could say over J.J. McCarthy. That's for sure. I have another item regarding the runs again. I loved it, and I hope that's real. We got to see more evidence of it, but it definitely felt like. But again, I don't know very much about the Giants in the line of scrimmage defensively. I don't know who they were using. I have no idea. That's got to be factored in. It's their first preseason game too, and I don't think they played in the Hall of Fame game.
Did not.
And I just don't think we know enough yet to be sure. As a first step, Yeah, I was encouraged by it because I believed in it for a long time. And it did look like the emphasis is get on the other side of the line of scrimmage. We want linemen who are moving and flying. And that allegedly is part of what this new blocking approach is. All of that, to me, is good, potentially. Now, it's a matter of how well you execute it. It's the old deal of everybody's got a plan until the first time they get hit in the mouth. When this line gets hit in the mouth, and we got 4 straight running plays that get 3 yards.
Right.
We going to stick with it? Are we going to figure out what they did to try to slow us down? All those things. But what I will say, even whether it's a first preseason game or a regular season game 9, you see the value of being able to open things up on the ground. There is such a thing as opening things up on the ground. It's liberating, man. Because basically, given the way the drive ended, you could make the argument all they needed was 1 or 2, maybe one more throw. It wasn't a drive where you needed 5 passes. And already they were in scoring position. And obviously they might have, taken it even further down the field without that incompletion on the check down. So to me, that's where I'm hoping it reinforces in the head coach's mind. It's like, God, this game can be easier if we properly use that component. It really can be. And then that means easier for the passing game. It means easier potentially for the quarterback as well. If you can sustain that, then obviously teams have to pay attention to it. They have to account for it. As the cliche goes, they got to bring another safety down in the box, all that kind of crap. And then guess what? Maybe JJ's not as likely to be triple teamed.
Well, that's the whole idea, right? Is to make things easier for him.
That's what I think.
And it makes sense. And it's almost reverse of Adrian Peterson. We brought him up a couple of times, Ring of Honor purposes today, but that was always what was so crazy about the fact that they couldn't find good quarterback play in his era, except for the Favre year, because of how much attention people had to pay to him, how easy the passing game should have been, and just rarely was. The Favre year, obviously, was mythic, but you would think the inverse should be true, that if you can somehow get the running game going just enough to respect it, JJ's good enough where he doesn't need even single coverage all the time.
Right.
He can beat a double team. They can scheme him up. They can do all those things, but give yourself the best chance to use your best player. Just makes logical sense.
What do you make of this? This is from Realistic Summary Guy. Hey, Dan, popping in with a realistic J.J. McCarthy summary.
Okay.
He looked like me in my last few weeks of my first semester of college. I had failed 2 of my classes and didn't even go to class for the last few weeks.
This is not my burner, by the way.
Nor did I take the final because I couldn't pass. Just like me, he has mailed it in. He looked disinterested in being the backup, and I am disinterested in him being on this team. Carson Wentz is by far the better option. Until next week, that's Realistic Summary Guy. Here's what I'll say. I didn't come away from it thinking he was mailing it in. I came away from it thinking he is completely lost.
Yeah.
And whatever verve he had on the front end, like, hey, I just make plays. I'm just going to go out and make plays. He's finding out it's not that easy, and now he's either sometimes thinking not enough and other times thinking too much. And I just think he looks more overwhelmed now than he did as a rookie.
Well, Charge put out an interesting thing together, or he retweeted somebody that did it, that put together his first preseason game against the Raiders.
Yeah.
Before the day he got hurt. And how decisive he was, where the ball was going, how it was 1, 2, 3 balls out. He knew, and again, he played like a quarter and a half. So
yeah, right. It wasn't like,
But just the decisiveness looks completely different than what you just described from Saturday, where it doesn't look like he ever knows what to do.
No.
Because I do think his mind is just messed up.
I think it is.
I don't think he's checked out. I don't think he's trying to do poorly, but
either.
I think he's got so much going on up there that it is completely paralyzing him.
Yeah, and I think the head coach has some bears some responsibility for it too. I really do.
Definitely.
I think it's definitely part of the equation. Let's come back with a. I'm now being accused of being a J.J. McCarthy apologist. Grow up, Dan. Grow up.
Do better.
Do better. Yeah, exactly. We're going to try to do better with a very quick review and synopsis of today's program and what we have coming up the rest of this week. A couple texts as well when we wrap up. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Barrero on the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Let's just try to run through a bunch of texts I've been starring and attempting to save, and I never got back to several of those that I wanted to because they've come in fast and furious today. You are worried, this is from 651 Guy, you are worried about a socialist takeover. Meanwhile, authoritarian takeover is underway. I've had this conversation before, 651 Guy, and I'll just repeat myself. They are related in my world. My concern is the best chance for a continuation of what you call an authoritarian takeover is that the wrong people get put in positions to run on the Democratic side. So, guess what? We can walk and chew gum at the same time. It doesn't mean there's not. In fact, that's part of the fear of the authoritarian takeover that you're discussing. How long might it last if bad decisions, non-strategic decisions are made in the name of performance? Very much related. Lawyer Tom, Murray took 9 snaps, 0 holding calls on the Vikings. 46 of the 56 yards were rushing yards, not by him. Completed 2 of 3 for 10, one of which was not very well thrown, but he was bailed out by a very good catch by Addison. The other completion was a check down for 2, and on the incompletion, he flat out missed Jones for a 1st and goal, which has been dismissed not as a bad throw, but it's a miscommunication between Jones and Murray. Has that excuse ever been applied to a McCarthy miss? Well, he's either listening to the show earlier and stealing my material, or it's great minds think alike.
Or it's J.J. McCarthy himself.
Well, that's possible. I know we're doing what we do, but let's put this in perspective. He didn't vomit on himself, but that's about it, really. Well, that might be a little more negative, but I get the point. Dan, I'm John A. in Golden Valley, longtime listener, first-time texter, caller. Replying to the Mangione conversation, I've worked in the health insurance/healthcare industry for about 20 years. One thing many people don't understand is that for the majority of the larger companies that people work for, Target, Best Buy, Delta, etc., these companies choose, not the insurance companies, what they want to cover, what the deductible is, what the employee premium is, etc. They hire companies like UHC to administer their benefits. UHC has no say or determination on what these employers cover. Also, what many people don't know is that for smaller employers, the UHC does write the policies for. There is a limit imposed by the Affordable Care Act to the amount of profit they can make. If they make more profit than allowed, they have to refund the employer group, and the employer group has to use that money to fund health incentives for their employees. Think gym memberships or some other things like that. Hammer out texts to 64686 on a flip phone like me. Walk through Target with nothing in your hand and your head up. Meet people in the flesh with differing views or differing professions, and don't even talk about these things. It's entirely possible. Luigi and Brian would have gotten on well if they'd met randomly at the bar or on some such public event. That speaks to the larger question of, the silos, etc.
Right.
It's not a bad point. I think there's one other one here. No, the rest of these I think I actually did already use. So that's a good cross-section of what we talked about today. Kind of a combo platter show. As always, we want to thank Johnny Athletic, who joined at 3:30. Ben Leber at about 4:50 or so. Tomorrow, we've got the director, of the...
Director and producer.
Chris Newberry of a new Jacob Wetterling documentary. Is that correct?
Yes.
He's coming in studio.
He is.
Looking forward to that visit. I think we mentioned perhaps Gleeman coming in on Thursday.
If we're not at
camp, and it looks less and less like we're going to be at camp because the timing doesn't work with the joint scrimmages as much as practices, as much as we wanted to be there for that. I'm assuming Seifert tomorrow.
That's the plan. Yeah, I have to text him.
Tentatively.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that.
See what works for him.
Is a possibility because I would like to talk about turf issues. That's rearing its head yet again. No Kessler this week, we don't think.
Don't believe so.
So we're working on a couple of other things there, too, and then I'm going to try to take a few days off after Thursday. Do we have a winner, or is the winner determined later in the...
Winner will be determined later. We got a ton of talkbacks for our talkback for tickets.
Excellent.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Which we're going to be giving away the rest this week, correct?
Yeah. It's exciting.
Outstanding. That's a good gig if you can get it, that's for sure. A lot of KG talk today, weirdly enough. And that kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? Well, I guess it was related to a late question I asked Johnny. And then we had some pushback from people going, why are we celebrating? Why are we making such a big deal of this retiring his number? We didn't win with him here.
Well, I'm not taking that person to the game. I know that.
No, I would say that makes. When's our next Lynx encounter?
Good question. They beat Vegas again.
You know what I didn't get to? I did talk about that yesterday. Did you see the Dawn Staley comments about the ongoing WNBA soap opera?
I did not.
We'll get to them tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not saying she's listening to this program, but I'm just saying a couple of the comments were fascinating to me. Let's just say I've heard them before, perhaps even on this show. Dawn Staley.
I like it. I love Dawn Staley.
On some of the issues of the day.
We have a showdown on Wednesday night in Golden State against the second-place Valkyries.
This could be like the final shot they have to get maybe, threaten for the number 1 seed. If we knock them off, because they're right on our tail, aren't they?
Well, better than anybody else. They're 3.5 games behind us.
Not in the loss column.
2 games.
2 in the loss, see?
And they have won 5 in a row.
They're hot.
Well, we love that. We love that kind of challenge. I'm excited about Wednesday. It will not be on the radio, unfortunately, because it's a national TV game.
Well, the Saturday night game was national TV.
Yeah.
I watched a decent amount of that. I'm sure you saw it, too.
How about the Asia Wilson flop? You got to give me that. I know that I'm more flop heavy. Where they reviewed it, she ran into Nia Coffey and then
I didn't see that play.
Oh, it was brutal.
Was it bad?
It was brutal.
Well, did they overrule it?
No.
Oh, they
and then the announcers are like, well, incidental contact there. It's like, no, she literally ran into her on purpose. Drives me crazy. But you know what? Didn't matter. We won.
We won the game, didn't we?
We handled it.
And despite the fact that Nafisa was in foul trouble for much of that game.
She was. Had a couple of quickies back-to-back.
Cheap?
I don't know. I didn't see those.
You'll probably call them cheap.
No, I didn't see them, so I can't comment. But if I saw him, I probably would have called.
So if you won the tickets, people will find out via...
You'll be contacted.
You'll be contacted.
Yes.
Okay. Because I thought originally we were going to announce it on during the show.
Well, maybe I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's another way to go. I don't know. Just a thought. JJ being in the system the longest of 3 quarterbacks should look the least lost out there. Yeah, if you buy the system thing, the system stuff gets overplayed for me just a little bit. And now we got some people rebelling over the whole concept of O'Connell as a quarterback whisperer.
Interesting.
Seattle made Darnold a champ, not our coach.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, that's true.
You got to win, man, and you got to start winning the postseason, and people are going to start getting crazy. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It's no different here than any place else in that regard.
It's true. No, that part is true.
Fan on a Man in the Air, is that next?
You got it.
And then Dan Patrick.
That's the plan.
And we're back tomorrow.
Well, I think he's off this week, so I don't know who's filling in.
It ain't me. I know that. Those days, that ship sailed.
You're not even a guest anymore.
No,
Get a better phone.
God knows. I tried. I told him I have a hell of a phone. Talk to you at 3.
The Fan.